You're listening to the Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
I have my good friend Will Huckabee joining me for, I believe, the first time on Raw Reaction. Am I correct in that, Will?
Yes. This is my first time on the Raw Reaction, man. I'm really excited to be up here, man.
Yeah, this is sort of the flagship of the Angry Marks podcast. I mean, this and I think Jordan Garber's Snake Pit is up there as well, but this is apparently the flagship. We're 300 something shows in, so we've been going at it for a little while here. So we're catching up to Raw, but not quite there.
So are you trying to say that, like, you're the Raw of the Angry Marks podcast, and, you know, me over there at the Wrestling Nerd, we're like SmackDown or NXT? Is that the vibe that I'm getting?
I was actually going to say some BFW Hall, but...
some BFW Hall. Okay, Randy Orton, okay.
Yeah, that leads us into some big news this past week. Apparently, Randy Orton got into a little Twitter wildfire with the whole independent crowd, basically sort of taking shots at all independent wrestlers and the small little gymnasiums and basically anything that is not Raw or SmackDown as far as being on the big stage. And he sort of says, hey, you know what? So you guys do your little flips and dives and whatever, but we're still making a shitload of money, selling a shitload of merchandise, and life is good for us. So as cool as you guys think you are, we're WWE, we're big time. So what are your thoughts about this? I know Philly Kev was telling me you do a little independent wrestling yourself, so I'm interested in your thoughts on this.
Well, actually, the whole thing started with a status or a tweet from OVW trainer Rip Rogers. You know, he's been a guest on an earlier incantation of the Wrestling Nerdcast and stuff. So he's very opinionated. But he had originally made a post and stuff, basically mocking, I guess, today's version or today's quote unquote stereotypical indie wrestling match, where it's paraphrasing, you know, lock up, dive, high spot, kick out, 15 false finishes, hit a guy with a truck, kick out, simple roll up for the win. Then all the guys get on social media and congratulate each other, say, hey, that was an awesome match, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what started the whole thing. And of course, you know, it went wildfire. I guess on the indie circuit, it kind of went wildfire stuff. And because I heard about it and stuff like early Saturday morning. I've seen guys complaining about it Saturday morning. And then, of course, like you said, Randy Orton decided to throw gasoline on the fire that was already started, turning from what was basically a small brush fire into a raging wild forest fire and stuff, you know, just demolishing acres and acres of quote-unquote wrestling woods and stuff. You know, basically saying, hey, you know, you guys, all your flips and kicks and stuff and lack of ring psychology, you guys keep doing that, while I'll sit here, you know, with my headlocks telling the story on, you know, working for a company or working on the show that beat the flagship show of the company and made $5 million more than Raw in the past 11 shows. You know, I'm the champ, but, you know, you guys keep doing what you're doing in your little VFWs and bingo halls, killing yourselves in front of 150 people that paid $8 a ticket to come watch you do, you know, the bullshit that you do. And that was basically his tweet. Of course, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it directly in front of me. So you want my opinion on that? I'm guessing you want my opinion, right?
Absolutely. I want your opinion.
The way I feel about it is that what's going on now is the same as what goes on in any form of entertainment, any form of, you know, media and stuff, is that people love, and people love what they grew up with. What's going on now, in my opinion, is the same as what happened when Hulk Hogan came onto the scene in the 80s and stuff. When you had, you know, your Wahoo McDaniels and your Dutch Mantels and your Harley Races and Ric Flairs and stuff, claiming that Hulk Hogan wasn't a real wrestler. You know, and I can remember as a child, you know, Ric Flair kind of taking shots at Hulk Hogan, saying that he was the real world champion and no other title really mattered. You know, the way I feel about it is the same as, like I said, when it was off the air. I grew up in the 90s and stuff. I grew up on, 80s and 90s hip hop, everything from Run DMC and Nas and Rakim to Tupac and Biggie and Onyx and DMX. So that's the kind of hip hop that I love. Now, that's not saying, today's version of hip hop with Little Uzi Vert and 21 Savage and 22 Savage and the Migos and all these other guys who have names that I have no idea what it means. Not saying that they're horrible. It's just different from what I grew up on. Not saying that it's worse than the hip hop I grew up on. Not saying it's better. It's just different. I'm in no position to say, oh, well, that's garbage, because obviously, kids my children's age listen to it. These guys make millions of dollars. The same as, guys in the indies and stuff. You look at, and kind of, am I allowed to break down the fourth wall when I say this?
Yeah, go for it.
It's the same, Randy Orton can talk all the trash that he wants about guys who do these quote unquote flippity-do matches and stuff. But never in the history of professional wrestling have we seen so many people turn down contracts with WWE. You got guys like Ricochet who are making really good money on the Indies, who's making really good money in New Japan, working for Lucha Underground, making $6 million in 3 years. You got guys like, AR Fox will probably never get a deal, unfortunately, with WWE. In my opinion, he's one of the best cruiserweights, in the world, making, $5 million or $3 million in 5 years. So these guys are making millions of dollars doing what they're doing. So you can't say that it's wrong, in my opinion. It's just something that you don't like. And I think that professional wrestling is just like everything else. It's just like music. It's just like movies. It has to have something for everybody. Me, myself, I don't like horror movies. Surprisingly enough, I know Killer Kev, I'm 275 pounds. I don't like watching horror movies. Me, myself, I'm more of an action comedy kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? I'd much rather watch 10 Things I Hate About You than watch Hellraiser. So wrestling, just like music, just like movies and stuff, has to have something for everybody. And you can never say that somebody is wrong for expressing their artwork or their creativity and stuff different than you are.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and while you were actually explaining a little bit on this, I was thinking very much so that this actually does. I would liken WWE and just sort of like the smaller venues, things like that, to concerts, where you can't sell out a football stadium or MSG or anything like that. Every band can't do that. I mean, it takes a special band to do that with lots of hype, lots of publicity, a lot of things behind it, but that's not stopping the guy, Johnny B. Rockstar, from playing a little dive bar with 20, 30 people in there. I mean, I've been at plenty of dive bars back in my day, and I mean, there's always live music. It's something to bring in, and it could be covering hits of the most obscure band that you have out there, playing yacht rock or something like that. Where it's something where venues vary, audiences vary, talent varies, and I mean, you know what? Everybody's not going to be doing that, but obviously there's a market for these little, like you said, like the little VFW or even like the smaller promotions out there, smaller than WWE and other 3 or 4 biggest promotions. There's a market out there for shows like that. I know actually in my hometown, small town in New Jersey, I saw something come online. They're having a show at the local VFW, and I think tickets are like ringside tickets are like $20 or something like that. And like the town, I mean, it might be 10,000 people in it, small town in New Jersey, but I mean, we're 2 hours outside of Philly, 2 hours outside of New York, hour from Atlantic City. I mean, there's a lot of other venues out there, but apparently, I mean, if there's a demand for it, sort of I'll call it the low-hanging fruit of the market, whereas people who either don't have the desire to drive to, like tonight's show, Newark, New Jersey, they don't have a desire to drive up to Newark or the desire to spend probably a couple $100 to bring a family of 4 up there, buy some refreshments, park, get some souvenirs, and have decent seats, a couple $100 easily. So I think a lot of people would say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go to the local show and spend $20 and be thrilled and get the same experience or similar experience.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, it's like wrestling is wrestling, whether it's in a 10,000 seat arena or it's like in a National Guard armor that only holds 300-400 people. But being an indie wrestler and stuff, I'm able to see that there are guys out there right now who are working these VFWs and working these bingo halls, these armories, these high school gymnasiums, who are making a really good living. No, they're not, they're not buying a mansion like John Cena, but they're able to buy a brand new car. They're able to pay their rent or their mortgage off of just the money they make off of wrestling. So in my opinion, if you're paying your bills, based off of the money that you make on wrestling, whether it's your booking fee, whether it's the money that you make in merch, how can you say these people aren't successful? Success is a tangible idea based on, the individual person. Me, myself, I make a living. I'm able to pay my bills, because of wrestling. So how can you not say that I'm not a success? I'm doing the same thing that Randy Orton is doing. I'm wrestling. I'm paying my bills based off of the money I make wrestling. So you cannot knock what I do just because you don't like it. Can you ever imagine if Hank Williams Sr. actually knocked Florida Georgia Line because that's not his kind of country? Even though Florida Georgia Line is selling out 60, 70,000 seat arenas and stuff. They're just as successful, actually making more money than Hank Sr. made. You can't say, hey, these guys aren't real country. That's not real music, because they're a success.
Yeah, and I think things have evolved as far as the type of wrestling. And, you look at the matches 10, 15 years ago, it blows my mind. And I talk about this on Raw Reaction all the time. Like, these people are going to fucking kill themselves with these diving headbutts. And, hey, you know what? I get that you guys can, do it and make it look good and have a lot of success doing it. But all it takes is one person to screw it up, and you're not going anywhere without a wheelchair ramp in the future. And,
I think I'm sorry.
I think on Raw, it's one thing, because you have the best of the best catching you. But, these little VFW things, do you really trust some guy you met 15 minutes before the show or an hour before the show and went over the match to catch you diving headfirst out of the ring and be in the right spot and not screw that up? And, if you're WWE and it happened, you're probably going to be okay. If you're doing this an independent contractor at a small little show, it's pushing the limits. Good for them, because they love the sport and they can do it, and they take the risk, and they haven't got hurt. But I don't know. There's some things I would probably limit myself on. Just thinking out loud there.
Just to before we get into the actual Raw show, just to refute that question and stuff or your statement. Actually, yes, I actually do, because that's wrestling. You have to, if you don't trust the person you're in the ring with, then you shouldn't be wrestling. Especially on the level of being an independent wrestler, you have to trust the person you're in the ring with, because you might have just met them 15 minutes ago for the first time, or an hour before the show the first time and stuff, but you have to trust that they have your best interest in heart. A good example I'm going to use is a friend of mine, Cedric Alexander, and I mention him on my show all the time, because he's a very good friend of mine. I'm completely proud of him and stuff. Wish him, I can't wait to see his first title run and stuff. Wait for him to come back to Raw. But Cedric was an independent wrestler for 6 years before the Cruiserweight tournament, and I've seen Cedric do some amazing stuff on the indie level. Dives, flips, you name it, this kid has done it. Never got injured. In 6 years, never got injured. Within, less than a year of being in WWE, he gets hurt on a simple move. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this week, and it's just amazing to me that how guys can work on the indies for years and never really get injured. Go to WWE, and within a year, you're already on the shelf for 6 months. Look at, Finn Balor. Finn Balor worked in New Japan, worked at all over the world stuff as Prince Devitt. We can never say that, for the most part, his WWE style of wrestling is completely toned down than how he was when he was in New Japan. Never got injured, really, when he was on the Indies, when he was working in New Japan. Never got any serious injuries where he had to miss a show. Went to go work at WWE, went through, NXT, got injured at NXT, went to WWE, won the Universal title, got injured in the Universal title match. So you can't say that just because somebody's on the Indies that you can't trust that somebody's not going to hurt you or, miss catching you on a dive, when people get hurt just as often, if not more often, in WWE, which is supposed to be the big leagues.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think you have a good point there. I definitely agree with that. I mean, I don't follow the indies that much, but
you
I don't know.
should.
I just
You should totally.
If I didn't have a if I didn't think like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna be like making a living off of this or whatever, I'd be a little hesitant to do that probably. But then again, it's not my life.
Where do you live at? Where do you live at, Big Vic?
Atlanta.
You live in Atlanta?
Yep.
Okay, listen. I'm in Atlanta all the time, Big Vic. There's a company called Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. The next time I will be there is July 9th. I will personally pay for your ticket. I think the show is going to be at the Museum Bar in Atlanta. Do you know where that's at?
I can figure that out. That's probably.
I will personally look up AWE on social media stuff. I will personally pay for your ticket, and you can be my personal guest to come to the show. And if you don't come to that show and say that's just as good as a WWE event, well, you haven't lost any money whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? You're basically coming to watch a free, independent show.
Fair enough. That sounds like a challenge I may just accept that.
All right. Let's get to this Raw show. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know what? I think Raw's been in a slump lately. I thought today's show was a little bit better. I don't think it was great, but I liked it. Maybe it was having Kurt Angle back. Maybe it was WWE putting a little bit more out there, just as they tend not to do on pre-recorded shows like London last week. But it seems like they're really moving forward now with Raw and made some progress putting a card together for Extreme Rules. So what do you think? So I guess my question is, and I was wondering about this because I think this has been 2 or 3 weeks where we haven't seen Kurt Angle on the show. What are your thoughts as him as the GM?
I'm not really. I haven't fully, completely warmed up to the idea of Kurt Angle as the GM. I guess just because I'm a huge Mick Foley fan. I'm starting to warm up to him. It seems like a lot of his dialogue is very forced. He's not very comfortable in his role yet as being a part of the office and not as an in-ring competitor. But he's getting better. He still seems very stiff, very forced in his dialogue, but he's getting better week by week. Yeah,
there were a couple. I mean, it seemed like there were like he was on camera maybe 4 or 5 times. I mean, when he came out to the ring, it seemed like he was sort of reading off cue cards and in the back when he put together his matches. I don't know. He seemed really stiff this week as far as like just almost like overly rehearsed and not I mean, I think part of what people love about Kurt Angle are backstage skits and promos and stuff like that, which we haven't seen to this point. I mean, the biggest thing that we've seen from him is crowd reaction as far as the "You Suck" chants coming out, which is more than Mick Foley was getting lately.
Well, so yes.
Hopefully they expand. I think they can expand his role a little bit and maybe put him in positions where he can bring his strengths on. I'm going to say similar to Everybody Loves the Hardys and the whole Broken thing. Like similar to Hardys. I don't think they've been on a microphone more than once or twice since they've returned at WrestleMania. But I think eventually if they ever settle this whole Broken dispute or trademark dispute with TNA, hopefully that'll liven things up a bit.
Well, I was thinking, speaking about the Hardys and stuff, I don't think they're ready to. I don't think it's time to pull the trigger on the Broken gimmick just yet. I think that people are still, happy with the whole. They're still reliving the past and still the whole nostalgia thing. You can tell that when they're in the ring and the guys that they're working with and stuff are still having fun. Because you have to think that the Hardys have been wrestling for over 20 years. So a lot of the guys that they're wrestling now watched them in high school while they were growing up, dreaming of one day wrestling against the Hardys and stuff. So they still have the whole nostalgia thing that hasn't run its course, that still has to run its course. Guys that I think the commentary that I think it was Booker T that was talking about, these guys are legends and yeah, they can't give Braun just their respect and stuff. Like, these guys, the young guys and stuff in the tag team division, yeah, they may respect them, but they're going to take the fight to them and stuff. And they're not just going to, they're not, the Hardys, speaking of the Hardys, are not going to be able to just get by on just their reputation. So I think they have to continue to use that storyline right now. And then once it's run its course, they can go to the broken gimmick. Even though I don't think that gimmick will ever make its way to WWE, just because that's Matt Hardy's, that's his fallback. If things don't work all right, if things don't work in WWE, he can always take that gimmick and go back to the Indies.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think if WWE is apparently negotiating for the trade to clean up the trademark so they can use it in WWE, I doubt they'd be trying to figure out those numbers unless there was a good chance they were going to implement it sooner rather than later. I mean, like you said, I think there's a nostalgia act. It almost reminds me, at least at this point, of, you remember when DX came back, or Billy Gunn and what's his name came back?
Yeah, with the Road Dogg came back. Yes.
Yeah, they made that 2 years ago and had a championship run. It sort of reminds me of that.
Yeah, it does.
I think that those guys were brought in for like a 3-month period. I'm pretty sure the Hardys are probably a couple-year period that they're going to be wrestling for.
Yeah, like I said, you're definitely right. It's very reminiscent of when the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn came back and stuff. They had their title run. I think that WWE has learned a little bit from using that as an experiment. And unlike the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn and stuff, the Hardy Boys are still able to put on some really, really good classic tag team matches, even with the number of injuries that they've acquired in the past couple of years. It definitely looks like they haven't lost a step, unlike the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, where it was very visible that they had lost a step. With the Hardy Boys, they're still firing on all cylinders, man, and they're a testament to how, they're a testament to what, passion and taking care of yourself, even with all the high risk and stuff, you can really tell they're taking care of themselves. Once Jeff Hardy got past his quote unquote demons, these guys
the other thing with that, you have to sort of remember that with their wrestling TNA, I mean, you're wrestling once a week or so. You're wrestling WWE, you're wrestling 4 or 5 times a week. So I think the lighter schedule probably helped as well, as far as having them heal up and sort of get their acts together. And then obviously they can do independent shows as needed, but don't know if they're actually. I mean, I know they're doing a fair amount of independent shows recently, but I know when they were in TNA they weren't doing that many. So I think that probably helped them to heal up a little bit as well.
Definitely. One thing I can say about this show and stuff is that I wish that WWE could figure out a way to get rid of this stereotypical formula. We've seen for the past, I don't know how many years, that every episode of Raw starts off with a 20-minute talk segment. Like the first section, the first quarter or whatever, the first segment is always nothing but talk. Rehashing of what happened the previous week, what we're going to do tonight, leading into the pay-per-view. Maybe if they took that segment and moved it somewhere different in the match, I would enjoy it more. But it feels like I automatically know that I can skip the first 20, 25 minutes of Raw and not really miss a thing, because I know that it's all talk, and they really need to change that formula.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, though, because I think their biggest concern is, hey, you know what, we're going to tell you everything that's going to be in the show in the first 20 minutes, or at least give you sort of the lead up to, hey, this is what's going to happen here, this is what's going to happen there. And I don't know. I just think that they could. I think that they're it's sort of tried and true method where, they switched up and they'll have wrestlers come out, and like tonight, you had Kurt Angle out, he was out there for 5-10 minutes, and then all the wrestlers came out for 5 or so minutes, and then they started fighting, and that led to matches being made later in the night. So, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't think that WWE is going to be changing that. But I think no matter what, you're going to have people calling other people out, and not too many matches that early on in the card. There's never matches in the first 5-10 minutes, it seems like. And unfortunately, I don't think that the WWE is going to change that.
Yeah, unfortunately. But they did have, like you said earlier, I did enjoy a lot more of the matches today, or tonight's show. than in previous shows. Previous shows, the feeling of Raw had a very safe feeling. Like, we're not going to do anything outside the box. We're going to make sure that everybody is safe. And there were no risks taken. I think that tonight there was a couple of risks taken and stuff. And you could tell definitely in the matches, that people were kind of, stepping out of the box a little bit, especially with the women's match. Alicia Fox and Sasha Banks, they had some rough edges or whatever, but you could tell that they kind of went outside the box. When Sasha Banks went for the backstabber into the money bank, whatever she calls it, what is it? Her finish.
The bank statement into
the
backstabber was her finish.
But she does the backstabber gimmick. When she went for the backstabber stuff, and Alicia Fox held onto the ropes. You can tell that that's something, just the way that they went into that section of the match and stuff is like, it's totally different than what they've done before. The finish was different and stuff. The feel to that match was different than a regular stereotypical female WWE women's match and stuff, and I really appreciated it. I'm not a huge fan of Noam Dar, whatever his name is. Not a huge fan of his.
I was wondering what he was doing out there. I guess is that a storyline, or I'm guessing there's a storyline, but I didn't really get what that leads to. I mean, it just sort of seemed like it was sort of tacky there. Like, it's not going to lead to like a match with like him versus like somebody else, like a male female match, or like we had seen a Miz. Like, I didn't really see
I think originally it started off like, in NXT or 205 or whatever. Alicia Fox had her thing with Cedric Alexander, and Tom Cedric and Noam Dar had their rivalry going on. And of course, Noam Dar thinks that he's a ladies' man, so his whole goal was to steal Alicia Fox from Cedric. And now with Cedric hurt, now that it's kind of in limbo right now, and they just kind of have to hold on until Cedric gets back. Like you said, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have like a mixed tag team match, or if it's going to lead to a feud with like, couples or whatever. I would love to see it. I would love to see Noam Dar and Alicia Fox versus Cedric Alexander and his real life fiance Ariel Monroe, who has been on Raw before, and works for Sean and a couple other things. She's actually a wrestler and occasionally trains at the developmental center. I would love to see that match happen. But yeah, I don't understand what that whole dynamic is, but I did enjoy that women's match.
Yeah, it was definitely a good match. I sort of feel bad for Sasha Banks, though. I feel like she's gone from like title contender to just sort of like maybe she had to wrestle in a pre-show if she's lucky at the next pay-per-view. Like, I feel like she's sort of falling down the card. I mean, even on SmackDown, I think that she was, even if she went to SmackDown, I think that she'd be a little bit further down the card. I mean, it was nice to see her get a run as the champ and have her moment and beat Charlotte. But I think that, to be honest with you, I don't think she has size. Like, she's like really, really scrawny and not really tall. So I feel like that's keeping her back a little bit. I mean, she had this thing. She's not really is not pushed as much as like the Boss. She's not really given mic time. Like, I feel like she sort of got pushed down the women's division there.
Maybe, yes. But the majority of women in WWE aren't that big. I mean, look at Alexa Bliss. I think she's shorter than Bayley, and Bayley's one of the shortest divas there.
Bayley was towering over her today. I thought Bayley was like five, probably. I mean, Bliss is like 5 foot Fury, I think. Isn't her nickname? So she's probably like 5'1".
Yes, I think that Sasha Banks is big. The thing that's holding her back right now is because of her injuries and stuff. I think that they're kind of reining her back because she's been injured like once or twice already and stuff. So they're not trying to like throw her in these big, huge matches so soon if they're coming back from injury, and really shortening her career and stuff. So I think they're just taking it safe for her right now until they realize that she's 100%.
Yeah, that could be a good point there. But it just feels like she's sort of been. They're teasing a turn on Bayley and then keeping her face. And I think Charlotte going has really hurt the women's division on Raw.
Yeah, definitely.
In my opinion, I mean, I feel like she was by far probably one of the most dominant women's champions ever. And I mean, sort of lose her, and even switching her out with Alexa Bliss and giving her the title right away, it felt like, I don't think it definitely was not an even trade.
I don't know if it's an even trade, because Alexa Bliss is a great champion, and she's a great female wrestler and stuff. I think it's just, like you said, the dynamic with having Charlotte on Raw with Bayley and Sasha Banks, it was a way better dynamic than having Alexa Bliss with Bayley and Sasha Banks and the rest of that women's division. The feeling of it is just different. Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Bayley, they all had a history, so it was a built-in history, built-in rivalry that the fans could sink their teeth into. And now with Charlotte being gone, it's like there's a piece of the puzzle missing that shouldn't have been removed. They could have found a better way to do that entire trade and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of like, I know one of the things we've talked about in the past is sort of our belief where, okay, you know what, Raw has the Cruiserweight division matches on it. Like, why doesn't SmackDown have the tag team division on it? And, like, I feel like divisions should be, at least some of these divisions, they should be split between, they shouldn't be split between shows. I mean, I don't feel like we have enough good tag teams, especially on SmackDown right now, where there's 4 or 5 good tag teams on each show.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I definitely agree with you. I think that each show should have had one division that was special to that show. I think that what makes Raw special is the 205. And if Raw has the 205 division, then, like you said, maybe SmackDown should get the women's division, or they have this UK title and stuff. Maybe the UK wrestlers wrestle on SmackDown exclusively. I think the biggest thing with Raw is trying to find its identity. I think that their SmackDown, like when you watch a SmackDown show, you know what to expect with a SmackDown show. Now SmackDown has its own identity. It's unique, to SmackDown, and I think that because of that, Raw is trying to reshuffle the deck. And trying to figure out, okay, well, we have to do something now because it's kind of, you can't say that SmackDown is now the B show anymore, especially when the houses are about the same, the pay-per-view buys are about the same, and the talent level is definitely the same.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, I think that Raw probably has a better all-around roster, but I just don't feel like the writing's been, that entertaining with it. I mean, it's much more stacked roster, but I don't know. I mean, part of it, I think is not seeing Brock Lesnar since WrestleMania, or maybe the show after WrestleMania, and not really having any idea when he's going to come back. I thought it was cool the first time that he had a run where he was out, he wasn't on TV for a month or two. Now it's just sort of get annoying because it's okay, you know what? It's these other guys are all sort of fighting, and basically the main event of this next pay-per-view is going to be to find a number one contender, and it's not like Lesnar's going to be, I mean, he may be at the pay-per-view, but it's not like he's going to be wrestling or having to do anything at the pay-per-view. Usually if you have a match like that, you put him against, somebody decent, but somebody that is not going to kill him if they lose to Lesnar.
I like I like the idea that Brock Lesnar's out on every Raw. It makes when he's there at the show, it has a bigger.
Any Raw.
Say again?
He's not on any Raw. I don't think he's been on Raw since after, right?
He hasn't. But I think the fact that he hasn't been on Raw since WrestleMania is good because when he finally does show up, now it's a big event. Now it has a big feel. I'm not a fan of saying that the champion needs to be at every show. I don't subscribe to the belief that champion needs to be at every show, that champion needs to wrestle in every show, the champion needs to make an appearance in every show. I think that when the champion shows up, then when the champion's on the show, it's because I have something to say. Now I've said my piece, and now I'll leave. And I'll come back when I have something to say or I have to defend my title. Until then, hey, peons, you do what you do. Speaking of the writing at Raw and stuff, I want to know who's writing the Intercontinental division. Who's writing the Intercontinental tag, the Intercontinental match, and that storyline between The Miz and Dean Ambrose, because to have a match with two really good talents, somebody like The Miz, who's been there for 10 plus years and stuff, and has consistently put on really good matches, and then someone like Dean Ambrose, who is, was really good on the Indies, and now he's really good and stuff. He's really embracing the role of being the lunatic fringe and stuff. That storyline is just falling flat on its face, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dean Ambrose, pretty much ever since he won the title, I feel like he almost got pushed too far. Where there wasn't enough of a I feel like there wasn't enough of a chase with him getting the title, and now it's sort of like, okay, well, yeah, he had a title before, but he just didn't do it. Like, he wasn't entertaining as a champion at all. I mean, sort of the same thing with Seth Rollins to a lesser degree when he was a champ, but definitely with Dean Ambrose. I mean, I think they took the belt off him probably sooner than they would have, because he just wasn't. He wasn't great. He's a great at chasing, not great at defending. I think, like, the thrill of the chase is better than the result of the reaching of peak.
I think the whole situation with The Miz, I like The Miz. I've always been a fan of The Miz. I was a fan of The Miz on The Real World, when he was Mike Mizanine. I was a fan, when he was teaming up with John Morrison. I think that The Miz when he's the champion, he holds the title. He's a great throwback champion. He's great on the mic. His work, you can never accuse The Miz or never say The Miz is going to have a 5-star match, but he will never have the worst match on the show. This guy's consistently good. He's a great talker. He's great on the mic. He has consistently solid matches. And when he has the Intercontinental title, like he said, like he mentioned in a promo, it actually means something when he has the title and stuff. He carries the championship like a championship. I just was not impressed with the finish. I wasn't impressed with this match. I felt like it was very rushed. Like somebody, right before they went out into the ring and stuff, and they're still behind the curtain, somebody asked them, hey, they originally gave them 8 minutes and told them to go 5. And not exactly those numbers. I'm just saying, like, somebody cut their time right before they went out. The match felt very rushed, so it was very sloppy. And then I hated the finish. I feel like even with Dean Ambrose being a nutcase or whatever, he's still a babyface. And him deliberately giving The Miz a low blow in front of the referee was just bad booking, in my opinion.
You know what? I'm not terribly opposed to this, because I think what ultimately is going to happen here is, I think this turns into a decent feud, but the thing is, they put it together, and it's still probably 3-4 weeks till Extreme Rules, and okay, well, you know what, we can't give a clean ending to this. I mean, we have this feud going on right now. We need to extend it a little bit, and that's a good way to do it. And it could ultimately result in maybe a Dean Ambrose heel turn at some point in the future. Who knows? But I like it because it didn't give away. You have to be careful. I hate it when they give away great matches that should be on the pay-per-view. I mean, if it was a main event, I would have expected it to be longer and maybe come to a finish. But just being like the 8:40 match on Monday Night Raw, I knew there was going to be something, because you don't just put a match like that on Raw and just let stuff be settled there.
Exactly. I don't understand why whoever's doing the writing for Raw doesn't realize that if these two guys are going to face at your pay-per-view in the next 2-3 weeks, we don't want them to wrestle, every week leading into the pay-per-view, because now I don't want to see it, the pay-per-view. They definitely should have had Dean Ambrose versus somebody else on the roster, and then had The Miz attack him. Or The Miz working with somebody and Dean Ambrose comes out like he does and stuff and just distract The Miz into losing. There are a million different ways to continue a storyline with two guys without having them wrestle each other every week leading into the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think they will. I think, like you said, I think those matches are going to happen coming up. I don't mind it. I think what will happen is that they're going to maybe try to do another match at some point, maybe this week, maybe next week. but eventually there'll be a ladder involved, or chairs involved, or tables involved, and guess what? That's going to be our Extreme Rules little caveat there.
And that's another question. So they saw Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Does every match have to be an extreme match? You know, can't we just make the bigger matches be extreme? You already have a gimmick match as your main event, which is like a fatal 5-way.
Now, is that, I was confused when he announced that a fatal 5-way, like anything goes? Like you can like grab like chairs and beat the shit out of people, or is it more like,
Is there elimination?
Oh, wow.
Is it one? Yeah, is there elimination?
Well,
is it one?
No, it's not elimination, they said.
I have no idea. I have no idea. They didn't really specify what this fatal 5-way was. They just said it was a fatal 5-way and Extreme Rules pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of like the way they do some of that stuff. Like sometimes they'll put it together and then it's like, okay, well, like in 2 weeks we'll figure out what the rules are, explain them on the air. Versus like, I mean, it would have been cool right now, like tonight, if they actually like wanted commentary, and they could have done it. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to the entire show, but I don't think they did. But I thought it would have been cool if they explained, okay, here's what it was. I thought I heard them say something about, okay, first man pin, or first man to get a pinfall is the winner, but I'm not positive.
Not at all, man. It was just, like I said, the writing team for Raw really, I would give this show overall a B+. It's better than the last couple of weeks, but it's not what I would expect from the flagship show. Too many holes in the entire show. Too many matches that should have gotten more time to tell a story, that weren't given enough time. Too much useless talking, people talking for no reason. The backstage promos, with Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt, and then The Miz. Oh, well, so please help me while I'm thinking about it. Please help me understand what is the whole reason behind this guy who's just randomly walking backstage playing the guitar.
Are we talking about the Drifter?
Yeah, please, help me understand what's the whole premise of this guy. Why do we just randomly put him in on camera in, spots that shouldn't be funny or should be serious, and then this guy just randomly comes in? Why does he just randomly come to the Kurt Angle's office playing his guitar? It makes no sense to me.
He seems about as equally, and I don't think they're trying to this, so it's not a good thing, but I feel like he's as equally awkward in his appearances as Titus O'Neil.
That's somebody. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, which reminds me, I'm not sure if you saw this part. It was sort of a little 10-minute segment, but basically we had a match. Enzo and Cass come out, and then Titus O'Neil and his new buddy Apollo Crews come out. And Apollo Crews is dressed in tights, ready to wrestle, whatever. Titus O'Neil sporting a Titus brand, I think $5,000 suit, busts out, starts talking some smack about what Apollo Crews is going to do, and then they make the announcement that, wait a second, the match isn't Apollo Crews, it's Titus O'Neil. So basically he was forced to start wrestling in a suit. That was it was entertaining to see him get beat up with a suit, but, wouldn't you know before you're going out to the ring if you're a wrestler or not?
I like Titus O'Neil. I'm a huge Titus O'Neil fan. I like Apollo Crews. I've always been a huge fan of Apollo Crews. And then you got Enzo and Cass, who are two of the most popular guys on the show. The buzz for Enzo and Cass, the week before WrestleMania was huge, when everybody thought that, okay, they're finally going to fucking pull the trigger on Enzo and Cass and give them the tag team titles. And then they swerved the entire wrestling industry and brought back the Hardys, even though it really wasn't a big secret, but, all four of these guys, in my opinion, are a classic example of the bad writing for Raw. These four guys are incredible. Titus O'Neil is probably one of the best looking guys, body-wise on the show. He's tall, he's huge, he's jacked. He's a model employee for WWE. He was voted, best dad, of the year or dad of the year. He gives to charity. He feeds homeless people. He's everything that you would want in an employee. And for some reason, they put him in spots like this. And then you have, Apollo Crews, who is one of the most agile heavyweights in the world. This guy's like 220, 225 pounds, maybe heavier. This guy is so athletic. He can do standing shooting star presses. And you put them in spots like this where it's just like, oh, shit, we have like 6 minutes to waste. Hey, guys, go out here and do this spot real quick. I feel like that entire segment.
That's the problem. That's the problem with Titus O'Neil, though. They've been struggling with him for a while.
Say that again?
I feel like with Titus O'Neil, they've been struggling to find a place for him for a while. I mean, they have him set up as a heel, but it's almost like, hey, you know what? I do all these great things, and I get to do a TED Talk, and, like, I'm going to make me a heel. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe something. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. What did you just say? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, I mean, maybe some of the stuff he can use as a heel, but I mean, talk about like, hey, you getting like Father of the Year and get to do TED Talk, stuff like that. I mean, there's some stuff where I don't think that really helped advance him as a heel. I think it was more just like, okay, either like leave that alone. That's like a good job, and that's great that you did it, but it's not really. It doesn't make you a heel. It makes you like a responsible wrestler.
Exactly. Like I said, I just think that they've really wasted the talents of Titus O'Neil. I think that when he's a heel and stuff, man, he's great on the mic. He looks like $1 million, and he can work as a big man. I just think that this was a wasted segment of all 4 of those guys' talents, in my opinion. And really, I much rather would not have seen them on the show than to see them in a really useless 3-minute spot.
Yeah, I would like to see. I'll tell you what I would like to see though. Some more stables, or some stables, because we don't really have stables these days. And I know we had, I think the last big stable, or last decent stable was the League of Nations, and that didn't go too great, but I don't know, I feel like there could be like a decent stable or two out there. Whether it be a Balor Club, or Seth Rollins starting the Shield 2, or something like that. But I don't know, just don't say it. Speaking of Seth Rollins, main event, we ended up basically starting a match, Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt, wrestling for about 5 minutes or so. Out of the crowd comes Samoa Joe. Then Samoa Joe and Bray Wyatt start beating the crap out of Rollins in the ring, going to town on him, sort of double teaming him. He's laid out. I was waiting for Roman Reigns' music to pop up. I thought he was going to be either going to pull him out and basically try to even more force him down everybody's throats as the face. But I was shocked that he did not come out, and instead Bray Wyatt took out Samoa Joe, which was it was a nice change and sort of puts the focus on, hey, every man's for themselves in this pay-per-view coming up, this fatal 5-way.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised at that too. I was actually relieved that all 5 participants didn't make their way to the ring and stuff for that brawl. Like you said, I would imagine when Samoa Joe jumped in, here comes Roman Reigns, and then all of a sudden here comes Finn Balor. But I was pleasantly surprised that they kept it with just those 3 guys. And then, like you said, after they put the boots to Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt turned on Samoa Joe. And the last image we saw was Bray Wyatt standing tall in the ring. Completely surprised by that, but thoroughly surprised. I was very happy that was the last image we saw. And like you said, it reiterated the fact that, hey, we both might not like this guy, but I don't like you at all. And if I get a chance to beat you or stab you in the back and win this match, I will.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that, and that's good that it adds to that. I think that we'll probably have some more matches heading into the pay-per-view as well, with probably make 2-on-2 matches and maybe have somebody be a guest referee or something like that leading into the pay-per-view. So I think we have different matchups to come here, and hopefully after the pay-per-view we'll come out with another feud or two out of these 5 gentlemen.
Yes. Speaking about the main events, the other main event, the Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns. as a wrestler, and this kind of, and it's so funny that this match happened on Raw, especially with all the things that happened on social media this weekend. That match, Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, psychology-wise, made no sense to me. It was the most convoluted match of the night, in my opinion. My least favorite part of the night, my opinion. You know, here's Roman Reigns, who supposedly his shoulder's all taped up and stuff. Bray Wyatt's beat the piss out his shoulder and stuff. And then, you know, instead of attacking his shoulder, Finn Balor is trying to attack his ribs, which made no sense. And then even when he went for the spear and missed the spear and hit the ring post and stuff, you know, his shoulders should have been completely destroyed at that time. But there he is doing suplexes and power bombs, and you know, and the end of the match with a spear of all things. You know, that match to me, psychology-wise, made no sense. Did not enjoy it. I didn't like the fact that Roman Reigns actually won the match, because it now there's no believability that Finn Balor could possibly win. If Finn Balor, in my opinion, Finn Balor would have won the match tonight, now you can go to the pay-per-view with like, hey, this guy may be the smallest guy in the match, but he was able to pull one over on the quote-unquote big dog of the yard and stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I thought they were going to have somebody interfere in this match, and I thought it was going to be Bray Wyatt. But you know what? I don't mind seeing somebody take a loss every once in a while on Raw. But like I said, I would have rather seen Finn Balor get the win, like you said, between the injured shoulder and, I mean, maybe even if they just played Braun Strowman's music or something, not even have him come out, just play his music or something, distract him, get him fired up, and then have let Finn Balor hit his finisher and roll him up and get a pinfall on him. I think that would have been more believable, and it would have kept everybody, all five competitors, more legitimate as far as the Extreme Rules pay-per-view main event.
Exactly. I have a question for
feud with Braun Strowman, which we're probably going to get stuck with when he comes back in 2 weeks or 6 months, as he usually have.
I have a question. What did you think about the R-Truth and Goldust segment?
I did not have a problem with that at all. I feel like that's been going on for a while, and you know what? They might actually be wrestling on a pre-show now because of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry for laughing, but the fact that you said it like that is like, you know, that's probably the best they can hope for, is that they'll wrestle in the pre-show, which is so horrible because that was my favorite part of Raw, actually. That was my favorite out of the entire 3-hour show. That was my favorite part. You know, they come out, they had that whole backstage vignette and stuff where Goldust is trying to cheer R-Truth up and everything, and then they get to the ring and they go to that whole entrance, and all of a sudden Goldust turns on them. Bam. Totally enjoyed it. I hope that it's a return to, you know, the early 1990 Goldust, when everybody was so uncomfortable with his character and stuff. I would love to see a return to that Goldust, where he's kind of creepy, but he's just really maniacal and sinister and evil and vicious and stuff. Favorite part of Raw, hands down, favorite part.
Okay, all right. My favorite part was probably during the Finn Balor Roman Reigns match. One of my buddies from college was actually in the second row on the hard camera side. And when they were doing, I think Finn Balor was going after Roman Reigns outside the ring, he jumped up and you could see him like he was taking up like half the screen. It was pretty entertaining.
Okay, well, I can see how that would be definitely your favorite part.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I don't know. I think the show is better. That's probably the best match that there was, but I don't know. I feel like it left some questions unanswered, which is good because it at least it'll make me want to watch a little bit more next week. Like the last 2 weeks, I had to tell you, I've almost just decided to skip Raw completely this week. I'm like, they haven't given me anything. Thank God that they put on a fairly interesting show this week, and I'm sort of happy I watched it. So getting into Extreme Rules, and you never know. I mean, we have some NXT call ups or get some talent back in there. You who's been injured between Strowman and the Revival. Yeah, I think that we're loading up for should be a decent pay-per-view.
You know, I will be honest. Like, I'm interested in watching next week's Raw, but not because of like the main storyline with the Fatal 5-Way. That's not what's going to draw me back to Raw next week. I think that the whole situation between Goldust and R-Truth, and then the storyline between Alexa Bliss and Bayley. I'm really intrigued about what they're going to do with that next week. Tonight, Alexa Bliss, she was cutting a promo and stuff, talking trash about the state of Jersey. And then Bayley came out and stuff. But the kendo stick, the shot to the back or whatever, the upper back of the head from Alexa Bliss to Bayley and stuff. I really want to see what's going to happen with that entire storyline. Are they going to try to, what I like to call dirty Bayley up and show that she's not just a hugger, but when push comes to shove, she can really fight? Or are they going to try to keep her all bubbly and happy and bouncy and stuff? So there are other storylines, the Miz and Dean Ambrose and stuff. Those will be the storylines that are going to make me want to tune in next week, and not so much what they're doing with Ambrose and Finn Balor and Reigns and Bray Wyatt and Samoa Joe.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I wouldn't mind. I don't mind that, and I think that they'll do some good writing with that. But like you said, I mean, I think that's sort of the big thing that carries Raw. I almost feel like the Hardys, Cesaro, Sheamus feud. I feel like that needs to end pretty soon. I feel like, I think it's been a good feud, but I feel like at the next pay-per-view, I'm assuming we're probably gonna have a tables match or TLC match or something like that. But I feel like that needs to be they need to come to some sort of a conclusion with that feud.
I don't know so much if it needs to come to a conclusion as they need to add in another tag team into the mix. I mean, me myself, I'm going to say this. I'm kind of partial to the Hardy Boys and stuff because I'm from Carolina. I'm a Carolina guy, so the Hardy Boys. But speaking of that, they have another Carolina team that works for WWE. The Revival. And I know that Dash Wilder is out right now, but I would love to see Scott Dawson, cut a promo and kind of interject the Revival into this tag team feud and stuff also and stuff. And not so much, of course, he's not going to be able to have a tag team match because his partner's hurt, but, he can kind of interject himself through promos and interrupting matches and stuff, talking about, how they're the best wrestlers from Carolina, et cetera, et cetera.
That's the thing now. I don't understand if Dash is still injured. Why can't he come out like Sheamus and Cesaro and just be like, okay, you know what? Dash is going to be there for support, sort of like tonight with the Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
Cesaro.
That would definitely be a good idea too. Like I said, I don't think I myself, I like Sheamus and Cesaro as a tag team. I think that they worked very hard to take what I think was just a thrown together tag team because they didn't have anything for either one of those two at the time. And so they kind of just put them together as a tag team. I think that they've worked very hard to make themselves a legitimate tag team, as seen by the fans. So I definitely don't want to see them thrown out of the title picture just yet. I would love to see, more layers put onto this story and stuff than just, okay, we've had a match at Extreme Rules, you guys lost, let's go on to the next team. I would like to see them layer on, other tag teams and throw them in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable, and unfortunately I think that the only tag team that's probably the most for that is probably the Revival.
What can I say? I like my Carolina team, man. I'm always gonna vote for the home team, man. As a Carolina guy, I'm always gonna vote for the Carolina from? I'm from Havelock, which is right there on the coast and stuff. It's Havelock, North Carolina. It's right there. I live right outside of UCM, the United States Marine Corps base, Cherry Point, about 45 minutes away from Camp Lejeune and stuff. Actually, funny thing is, Scott Dawson is from Wilmington, North Carolina, which is about an hour and a half, maybe a little over 2 hours, depending on traffic and stuff, south of where I live at. So we're basically from the same area. The Hardy Boys are from, right outside Fayetteville and stuff. which is about 3 hours from where I live at. So, you know,
You're like south of the Outer Banks.
I'm right there, like close to the Outer Banks and stuff. I'm about an hour and a half away from.
From where?
I'm about an hour and a half away from like Nags Head.
So you're sort of between Wilmington and Nags Head.
Yes, exactly. I'm like right between them two.
Okay, all right, cool. No, I've been out to Outer Banks a bunch, and I have some friends in North Carolina. Outer Banks are nice.
Yeah,
I think North Carolina beaches in general are nice.
Thank you. It's, you know, they got tourists and stuff.
It's not New Jersey. Be happy. But yeah, I think we covered just about everything. We had another Austin Aries A-double versus Neville match coming to pay-per-view. Apparently TJ Perkins is now TJP, so he's cool like that. I don't know. I gotta tell you, I haven't been impressed with Austin Aries since he came in WWE. He's not I thought he was a better mic worker in TNA, and he's just not doing it for me.
They definitely have taken his gimmick. You know, at one point he was the greatest man alive and stuff, or the greatest man who ever lived. They've taken his gimmick and just ripped it to shreds and toned it down completely. But they did that with everybody. I think they did the same. The only person who's really, in my opinion, has really benefited from the whole 205 Live thing would be Neville, with the whole King of the Cruiserweights thing. I think without him and with Cedric Alexander on the shelf, the Cruiserweight division is just floundering right now. I was talking to a friend of mine about TJP, as he likes to be called now, about why, you know, the fans don't get behind him. Why don't the fans really like TJP? And I think the biggest problem for him is the fact that TJP has been wrestling since he was like 14 years old, and he's like 30 now. He's in his 30s, I think. He's been wrestling for like 20 years. And he is so great that everything that he does, he makes it look so easy and so effortless. He does it so effortlessly that people take it for granted, I think. I think the fact that he can do everything he does is so smooth and it looks so easy is his biggest downfall. And that's why the fans don't get behind him, because he's a great technician, not only in the indies at PWG and stuff, and of course at TNA as Suicide, or Manic as they like to call him now, but now with him in the WWE, the fans can't get behind somebody who doesn't struggle, and it doesn't seem like he struggles to do anything in the ring. He's great on the mic. He's decent on the mic, but his selling is amazing. His ring work is amazing. And that's like the fact that he's so smooth and so great in the ring is his biggest downfall.
Yeah, I hear you saying. Yeah, so I think that's just about it. Probably been on here for a little bit longer. Kev might be snoozing right now. Kev, you still with us, brother?
Still here. It's been a great show.
All right, glad you had your popcorn ready for